think one of the biggest problems that we're going to have is lack of water, or the restriction of water, and learning how to select. But probably before we do that, we have a tremendous amount of education that we have to do with gardeners. The ability to water and how to water and how frequent to water and how well to water is a really major issue. Plants are a lot tougher than most people think, and they can go a lot longer than most people think. But one of the things that we're trying to do is make selections that will work very well in a low water usage opportunity. And whether we select the plant material or whether we show them how to use water-wise as far as irrigating baskets without slopping water all over the place. I think water restrictions are going to be the biggest challenge.
I think from our standpoint as a provider of consumer product labeling and point of sale messaging, I think it's innovation. It's being able to come up with the right messaging, the right message, the compelling visuals to appeal to not only today's gardener, but today's decorator, outdoor decorator, and the millennial Gen Y group that's coming along that we all need to figure out how to speak effectively to.
A couple of things that come out, from the consumer perspective is the popularity of color, and certainly blue is one of those colors that we're seeing an increased popularity. We know that pinks and purples and bicolors, but certainly blue has really made a run. So anybody who's breeding or looking to select plants, blue is really, really popular. With that, we also see the desire for drought-tolerant plants, and we've heard of restrictions in California and other areas. But drought-tolerant plants also mean low maintenance, and so we've known for years geraniums in containers are drought-tolerant, and they work great for that consumer who's starved with running around with kids and soccer and everything else. But drought-tolerant is not just for water restriction areas, but for maintenance. And from a maintenance standpoint, drought-tolerant plants are perfect. Diamond Frost has been a great one. Lantanas and geraniums and others are really good items, and so drought tolerance is something that we're looking at more seriously. And then lastly, we think about our consumer for years who has been a traditional baby boomer. And they started out, gardening 20, 30 years ago with open plants and open landscapes that really didn't have a lot of shade. And now they're saying they've got a lot of shade and they just lost their impatience. So what are the types of products that work well in deep shade in areas where, you got a lot of tree roots or whatever? And so we're looking for plants that don't just flower, but also will have fantastic foliage and give some color as well. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, and we're hoping to continue to introduce in the coming years.
I think when we're talking about trends, the biggest thing that when people are talking to me outside of the industry that they're asking for help on is on edible gardens. It is absolutely, they're looking for clean, healthy ways to feed their family, and they want to be able to do it from their own backyard garden. And so I think that edibles will continue to grow, but I think we'll also see more and more growth in the organic sector of garden, and that we're going to also see just new fruits and vegetables that people are going to want to do. We're seeing such a high interest in things like our ketchup and fries and our pixie grapes and the mighty mayo, and it's because they're focused around these food groups that people want to be able to grow in their garden. Same with the herbs. Again, when my friends come over to my house, they want to know, oh wow, I want to be able to grow rosemary, or I want to have mint for mojitos, or I want to have basil for my pesto, and I want to grow that myself. And so I think that we'll see that trend expand. I think we'll see it expand within the supermarkets and just accessibility to purchase those products. It won't just be the retail garden centers. You'll see more and more of it just as that grab-and-go stuff that you see at a Trader Joe's or at your local grocery store. So bringing that together.
I think as the consolidation of suppliers continues, and I think it will continue moving forward, one of the challenges is to not only be focused on the needs of the production system. In our industry, most innovation that happens is focused on the needs of the production system. We're not that interested as an industry in what the consumer needs for her garden and why she needs it. We're not that interested in younger people and how they view our industry. These are two critical pieces to our success in the future. And it's certainly relevant that we focus on production systems and improvements to that, because as I said on the basil earlier, focusing on disease resistance and benefits of production, improving those things at the genetic level is hugely important. And I don't think it's that hard to do. We just have to focus on it for a little bit. But not paying attention to what the consumer needs, wants, or believes they need is a fatal flaw for our industry that right now, with the organic movement that a lot of us have rolled our eyes at, going, it doesn't matter. That's been an opportunity to bring new consumers into our industry, and we ignore that at our peril. It's a gateway, it's an on-ramp for a whole nother generation of gardeners, and not just gardeners, but people to work in our industry. These improvements and these new things can help us make more money, pay more for staff. This is a continual problem. Who wants their kids to go into horticulture and live a life of poverty or near poverty? I mean, the priesthood is almost competitively priced. So if we can focus on the needs of the consumer, we can get a higher price. We were talking earlier about ketchup and fries. That's a perfect example of innovation that meets the need of a consumer, that creates excitement and allows a much larger profit margin. So let's focus on those things that actually meet the needs of the consumer, where we can make some more money, everybody can have more profits, we can afford to pay people more, and thus recruit more young people and more energetic people into our industry. You shouldn't have to take a vow of poverty to go into horticulture. And I think we have the innovation at our disposal to help solve that problem.
One of the trends that we're kind of seeing, that we're hoping to lean towards, is the combo pots. We know that that's actually kind of becoming bigger and bigger with some of the box stores and our large customers. And so for us, it's how can we combine that into a program? How can we combine it so that it makes them easy to receive and transplant and put into pots or baskets and move forward with that. So that's kind of something fun that we're trying to pick new ideas. Danziger has a great line out now of mixes, and so we're just trying to see how a plug producer can also fit into that, into offering those mixes for them. Challenges for us, not only on our ornamental side but also our vegetable side, are obviously number one in California is the drought. The drought is affecting our farm customers and the ornamental, as far as they go. People aren't landscaping as much. They're building houses much closer together, which gives them not a lot of room to landscape. So if they're not buying the flowers, then we're not supplying the plugs. And as far as watering, people are could be taking out lawns, or the scope of buying plants inside the stores is going down. Therefore, we're trying to keep that market alive and going. On the vegetable side, a lot of customers are losing acreage, or they're decreasing their orders for the next year of their acreage, and so if they're not, everyone still has to eat, but if they're not buying it, the price definitely shoots up. So to make it available for customers, it's going to either the price will be really, really high, or the availability will be very limited. So those are some of the challenges. Also on the ornamental side, another challenge would be to know what our end user wants, and to have that trickle down, to us as a plug producer. Where can we predict the market is going, as far as what the Home Depots and the Lowe's and the Walmarts, what are they looking for, and what can we do on the tail end, or the beginning end of things? How can we make that available for them, that when they want something, what can we do to make sure we have availability? So I think it's always hard to kind of predict what that end customer is going to want, and help them to plan it in a time that we still have time to sow it and get it to their door.
The next season, I think, again, is we as an industry have to do a better job understanding our costs and keeping our margins up where they need to be. Sadly, it's about survival for our industry, and we need as companies to try to collaborate rather than just thinking competition, because our competition is for the time and energies and monies of our customers in the long run and down the line. And we have to work together to make plants be successful for our customers. And if they're successful, they want to keep buying. They think they can grow plants. And that's what we have to work on as an industry better.
A couple of the challenges that we have on the production side would be automation and labor. We all know that it's going to be critical moving forward that we become more automated in order to keep our costs down to you, the consumer, and the customer. On the sales side, what we're finding is that there's still a price issue in the market being driven by the independent garden centers versus the big box stores. So how can the independents distinguish themselves from the big box stores? And I think that issue is going to be a long-term trend that we're all going to be talking about for some years to come. So those are two of the major issues that I see and that we struggle with each and every day.
Well, I think what we're experiencing here in California, the water restrictions are going to be with us for the near future. And it's something we as an industry need to be pretty active about addressing. Not only in our breeding programs, is one of the things that we're working on as breeders to try to come up with more drought and heat tolerant plants. You know, for instance, on patients, it's well documented how well they do in heat, high humidity. But we're also looking to address making them more drought tolerant, which is going to be critical for all of our genetics moving forward. And the other thing is, even from the political standpoint, the first thing people want to do, it seems, is let's get rid of the flowers because we have to reduce water consumption. Where in fact, flowers are often much more efficient than lawns, for example, when it comes to being able to provide the beauty and impact to the homeowner versus a green lawn. So water, I think, is something we, as an industry, it's going to impact our breeding and it needs to impact our market.
I'm seeing it from a number of visitors already here at CAST, phone calls received. You know, I think the number one thing on people's mind today is supply chain reliability. And they're looking not only at the Kingsford line, but other ways in which to secure supply chain within their production. It's very challenging when a grower doesn't get what they order on time. And so I think that is something that we at Novaplant really take pride in our reliability. It's something that goes beyond the genetics and gives another value to our product, is reliability. And so that's something that we don't want to lose, and we want to keep reliability into the market, and it's on a lot of people's
everywhere from the breeders to the producers to the retailers, everyone's going to be focusing a lot on supply chain, on looking for consistent supply chain, reliable supply chain, but also partnering supply chain where they're looking at not just short-term relationships, but long-term relationships where mutually beneficial, and also communication is the key. I think we all understand that we're in the horticulture industry, things happen, but as long as we communicate, I think that's what helps build a foundation. But it's as we keep on looking at areas trying to become more profitable in, supply chain is something that becomes a lot more important for one, being profitable, but two, also delivering a consistent, reliable result to our customers. So I definitely feel that that's going to be a trend that everyone's going to be focused on.
Well, so I think that the biggest thing is just trying to keep up with the speed of things. Everything's happening so fast. You have technology and communication, generations changing, you have government changing, all kinds of global economic crises, and they all have an impact, and they all kind of interweave with each other. But in the end, like I just told Gary, I said the thing we have to do is keep figuring out how to make people smile, and that's what plants do. And that's what we're trying to do with Haute Couture and our brand, and is just get something in people's lives to make them pick up a plant and make them smile and walk away with it. So that's the challenge.
Gary, there's a number of issues I think are going to impact our industry, and one of them clearly in the West is drought, with a major 25% reduction in water dictated by Governor Brown. We think that's going to move east to other dry states. Once they see that he's done it, other people may do it. So that will definitely have an impact. One grower told me that the weekend after that happened was announced that his sales went from on high to practically nothing, because it was the shock, and they've since started to come back, but still nothing to the level that they would normally be experiencing this kind of weather in the West Coast. Other issues are the oil prices are being reduced, and so the distribution costs for the growers and the heating costs go down, which is a little bit of help, and the consumers have more money in their pocket. Downside of that is it drives some unemployment in certain areas. The other issue I see is the generational changes. We're now going from the baby boomers to the X and Y. The X and Y generations are buy different. They're not hole diggers like their parents were, but they are environmentalists. They want to save the planet. So we think they're going to buy plants, but they're going to buy plants in the different modes and different formats. And it appears that container gardening is appealing to them, because they can get plants and take them home and not be avid gardeners and still achieve the benefits of having plants. So that basically wraps up the areas I think will have the biggest impact on the industry over the next 2 years.
Gary, I think the thing we've all struggled with, of course, over the last 5 years is the economy and the downturn, which has been the challenge. But as I see it moving forward towards 2016, 2017, there are a lot of positive signs with housing upticks and the economy starting to pick up. And I think for the horticulture industry in general, I think we're going to see some positive upward movement on sale of everything related to horticulture. More product for gardens, more product for container plantings, and of course with more housing, landscapers will be doing a lot better as well.
One of the biggest things that impact us is we've all, as an industry, have gotten so good that we can easily oversupply the market, and we're still so hinged or so dependent on the weather. So if we lose a key weekend in the finished sales, everything backs up and it tends to affect the whole season. Kind of sets the stage for the rest of the season, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think as an industry we tend to discount to try and move products, and that poses a real big challenge. You know, shrink is there's different ways to shrink. Can be things you actually throw out, or reduction in price to sell the product to still shrink. So we look at least I look at things like that. So sometimes we're very quick to sell on price rather than hold the line a little bit and I don't want to say actually throw something out, but take a little bit more of a risk to try and keep your pricing up. I think for the good of the whole industry, I think that would make the most sense. At least that's the approach that I